So, look at his credit results. Not told you has a lot of questions.
Okay.
He hasn't even heard your job. You're done, Tom. You'll have to
When we start. Welcome to the warm and friendly Westwood Village Rotary Club. Did you all miss each other? Did you all miss me?
No.
No?
Time's up.
Okay, please silence your phones. And we'll start with our Pledge of Allegiance led by Bill Rowan.
Oh. Everybody ready? Sure.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Okay, past President Ben Fisher, thought for the day.
Stand up. You can stand up. You don't continue to stand up. You only. Is that Chris? Oh my God.
Oh, that is Terry.
What?
That's Terry.
Hi, Terry.
Terry, talk to Christine.
Please. Let me jump. Well, as Jim Crane reminded me, I have 1 minute, so I'm going to do my.
Talk about another wonderful
1
invitation.
minute.
It's a big thing. It's a big school, so hopefully it goes well.
It's a big school and it's easy.
At least it did start speaking Russian something. Here we go. I have no idea. We pivoting now? We good? Hi, Bill. Okay, I have some spiritual quotes I will read to you. The wound is the place where the light enters you. Rumi. The only way to find true peace is to let go of the past and embrace the present. Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. Rumi. And finally, when you realize nothing is lacking, the whole world belongs to you. Lao Tzu. There you go.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Songmeister Ed Gall. You're up. I want to welcome Carol Rosenstein. Is Carol Rosenstein online on the Zoom?
Yes.
Okay. Come on up, Ed.
Okay, could we please stand for the song? I thought it would be appropriate to usher in to 2026 by singing Auld Lang Syne, which Mike has memorized when you were 3 years old.
Yes.
And Auld Lang Syne is a Scottish phrase, and it loosely is interpreted as for old time's sake. So let me put a hat on for this.
Nice.
This is the hat my Scottish great-great-great-grandfather wore in 1832 when he sang the song. Okay. Should old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind? Should old acquaintance be forgot and days of old lang syne? For old lang syne, my dear, for old lang syne, we'll take a cup of kindness yet for old lang syne. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
What would our club be without Ed Gall and his collection of hats? Ed, if I was to fine you $1 for every hat that you own, I'm not going to. But how many hats do you have? 325 hats. Nah.
How is it?
Oh, you've been there? Really? Okay. I want to thank today Bill Rowan for our Pledge of Allegiance, Ben Fisher taught for the day, Diane Good doing the windmill today, and past President Peter Moore for the as the greeter. We have visiting guests today. Do we have guests today, Lucy? Unofficial member, Lucy? Yeah. Our Rotaract today? Good. Excellent. Okay, one of my favorite things to do. Chris Bradford, Lucy Sang. Yep. Come on up.
Please. That sounds like a novel, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Sounds like it's part of a novel, the abduction of.
As long as it's not a hospital induction.
So what's the protocol?
You go ahead and do the thing, and I'm going to pin Lucy.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do the thing.
Well, I don't know exactly what do the thing means, but many of you, I think, have met Lucy Sang already. And you're fortunate to have met Lucy Sang. I have known Lucy for how many years now?
5?
A bunch of years.
Mhm.
And it all stems from my involvement, my volunteer involvement at UCLA, which I've been doing fundraising there for about 30 years,
Yes.
actually, believe it or not.
Past chair.
Yep. So Lucy has been a member of Rotary for in a different
2014.
club since 2014. She comes to us from the Lawndale Club. Also very much involved with the human trafficking group.
With the fighting human trafficking.
Group. That's the other group. That's the other group. Yeah, I knew there was the difference there. Anyway, with Cosette, who many of you know from, was a past district governor from the Westchester Club. And so I'm personally delighted that she's joined our club. When I first met Lucy and we started talking, and I discovered that she was a member of Rotary, it told me a lot about Lucy. Because people who are in Rotary, I believe, it tells a lot about their character. And I can attest to Lucy's high character and is just to me, she's just one of the most wonderful persons that I know. And I have nothing but the utmost respect for her. And I'm certainly glad that she's decided to join our club. So welcome to the Westwood Village Rotary Club.
Thank you. Thank you.
And you're going to do the honors, huh?
Wow, this one is so nice.
Yeah.
This is a really nice pen.
That's a special Westwood pen. You have a regular pen too?
Yes, I got one of those as well.
Okay, yeah.
Oh my goodness. I don't think I'm gonna take this one off.
Here you go.
There
Thank
you
you.
go.
Oh, I've got like 12 leaves. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, you're official now.
You're official. Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, Lucy,
Yes.
Lucy, we have your packet here.
Oh,
Oh,
yes.
Your packet, and I threw in something extra here.
Oh, perfect. I
A
love
book on Westwood.
Love it.
hey.
Okay, this is your packet. It includes the Rotary four-way test written by one of our members, the basics of Rotary, a bumper sticker, Russell Hampton, where you can go and they make it so easy to get in your wallet to buy
Yes.
swag.
I know from
You're-
experience.
Right, your certificate and so forth here.
I've bought Rotary Post-its before. That's how much I've shopped with them. Thank you.
Thank you.
So much.
You know, one of the things that I learned from Lucy in the interviews when we had the breakfast and talked to her, I've been talking to her ever since, is that she really does, just like Chris says, she really has the mindset to be a Rotarian. She really is interested in making the world a better place. She is very motivated on doing good things. And so I was impressed with that, as I am with all of our new flock of new members. Everybody stand up. Here we go. Now, Rotaract, you can sit down. Lucy's guest, you can sit down. You can sit down if you're a Rotary member and you are wearing a pin or a logo. Who's left standing? Okay, Tom, come on up. Dave, come on up. Just the two of you?
I just like thanking things.
All right, we have two $5 fines, and I got pins for both of you. There you go. You got that one? I don't have a regular Rotary pin. Okay, thank you. All right. Past President Peter Moore, you want to talk about Manhattan Rotary Club, visiting clubs. I want to visit Manhattan, and I want to pick a day when we can visit the Beverly Hills Club, you know, which is a fun club, and the Santa Monica Club is a fun club. And if you want to sit at a club where you don't understand a word they're saying, we can go to the Persian Club, Rancho Park. Yeah, not understand a word they're saying. Come on up, Peter.
Thanks, President Mark. You caught me with a mouthful when you call my name. So, as you know, some of you know that I travel a lot internationally. And being able to visit a club afar is one of the great benefits of being a Rotary member. Of course, you can visit your local clubs. Now that I'm retired, we're talking about visiting our neighborhood clubs. Steve Day and I were going to visit the Downey Club where we have friends. We're going to visit some of our members have left businesses in Century City and the West Side, and they have moved back down to the South Bay. Dave Long, you remember Dave Long? Bill Bloomfield Jr., they're down in the Manhattan Beach Club. And our past district governor, Ingo Work, is also active in the Manhattan Beach Club. He had left Redondo Beach and moved to Palm Springs. But we're going to make a trip down to Manhattan Beach probably in 2 weeks. And they meet on a Monday at 7 a.m., which means we have to leave here in the West Side around 6:30. So we're coordinating that. So I hope, if you're interested, let me know and let's join in and carpool down. Thank you. Yes. Oh, that is Martin Luther's thing. Yes, I should double check that. Thank you.
Okay. And I'll let the club know that we're planning this, what day we're planning to go, and I'll let you all know when we're going to go to the Beverly Hills Club. Are you all receiving the weekly bulletins about announcing the club meeting and the educational stuff? Okay, great. Carol, if you can hear me, you're online. I'm going to fix your email so you start receiving it from Club Runner. Okay. PE Bob Simon. Where'd he go? He took a call. There he is. Taya, we're not working here. Not working.
Okay, thank you. So I want to keep this brief. Rotary is about service above self. But the Alamo Rotary, so it's above service above self. I've seen a lot of slide presentations. Someone puts two paragraphs of words and starts to read them to you. Reading to me. That's when I enter the land of Nod, because I can't listen and read at the same time. Trying to do both. So I'm trying to keep my slides as sparing as far as words are concerned. So,
What is Simon Says?
There we go.
what comes out of my mouth?
We're here.
There you go.
That would be it.
Okay, so it's service above self, and according to the Rotary Club of Alamo recently, making a difference for people in communities around the world. But one step beyond that is the Rotary Foundation, which you can say every minute of every day, a Rotarian somewhere is making a difference for people around the world.
Thank you. Okay. On the table, you'll have some information about Camp Pendleton. Rotary has a whole thing about Camp Pendleton shared by Dave Hensler every year. We're very involved with supporting our troops down there in a supply house with diapers and beds and clothing and whatever they need for the kids. It's on the table. I'll mention also, put on your calendars April the 30th. I'm not quite sure the details yet. Giddy, past District Governor Giddy and Rica Viola are heading this up. There's going to be a large contingent of Italian Rotarians in our district on that whole week. Pardon me. And on the 30th, they're coming here to our club to join us for a joint meeting. That will be in Diane's term. And then I'm going to need volunteers with large cars that can help shuttle us around. I guess we're going to go to some of the high spots of Los Angeles. I understand that they want to go to the Academy Museum. They want to go to the Hollywood sign. They want to see Chris Bradford's house. Okay. And then we're going to end up at, well, I'm told we're going to end up at my condo for dinner. So put it on your calendar, April 30th. Yeah, they'll be in the district the whole week at other clubs and sing other things and so forth. Indiana? Okay, well, we'll miss you, Tom. Should I cancel it because you're going to be in Indiana? Okay. Okay. I'll mention that to Rika. She and Giddy are organizing this whole thing. Should be interesting. I understand it's 30 to 40 Rotarians, coming into town, not for FIFA, for something else on the Rotary International level. I'm not sure. I really don't know all the details. I just want to mention it ahead of time. Okay, before we get to Tom and the pool, quick look at what took place this week in history. Okay, the first female governor of the United States and from Wyoming, Nellie Taylor Ross. New Mexico became a state. Congress established the date when all states were required to appoint their electors for the first presidential election, 1789. Andrew Jackson led an American victory over the British in the Battle of New Orleans. Mississippi seceded from the Union in 18, didn't work out well for them. John Rockefeller and his brother William established the Standard Oil Company, 1870. Amelia Earhart began her flight from Hawaii to California. First person to make that journey solo. 1935, not even 100 years ago. Okay, and next we have past President Tom Barron, who's going to explain to us the NFL pool. This is for the
Explain much. Doesn't appear on the name appears there, but you can see the team. The number one seeds, Seattle, and selected by Steve Day, and Denver Broncos by Norris Brewery. I'll never keep them out of the middle of this. But if your name's up there, Kaya, you seem to be good at that stuff.
Bill got 2 weeks?
Good with pictures. But anyway, that's nice. Yeah, it is.
who's going to be in charge of letting us know who won this money? Okay, all right.
Yep.
Okay. All right. I want to mention that in my gatherings and so forth, I came across this Facebook page with permission to join it. It's all about trading pins. And so I thought to myself, what a great fundraiser for the club. Terry, what do we pay? $4 or something for these pins, the Rotary Club pins, whatever they are. So I posted on this. I said, if you'd like to have one of the great Westwood Village Rotary pins, make a $25 donation to our foundation and send me your home address. So far, I haven't heard anybody. Anyway. Yeah, I have inventory. Who has more pins? Does anybody but me have the Westwood Village Rotary pins?
I have some.
You have some, Diane? You have some? Okay. I don't, not your own. I mean, an inventory of them, so we all know where they are. All right. I looked at other Rotary fellowships. Then there's all kinds of Rotary fellowships. For you newer members, there's fellowships for every hobby under the sun. And at the Rotary Convention, there's hundreds of them that have their own booth at the Rotary Convention. All right. Ben Fisher.
Yes.
Tell us her name and tell us her weight. His name. His name. Well, this is California. Anything goes.
So on January 1st, my son-in-law, and they were due on January 12th. Be prepared. We're at the hospital. So Miles Harrison Casey was born on January 1st. Healthy baby boy. And as I told Mark, it is my pleasure to be fined $250.
Whoa.
For 25.
Your pleasure, but it's the president that decides that.
You know,
I got to consult with my advisor over here, Michael Newman.
It ain't going up.
All right. Is it the club consensus that 250 is fine? Good. All right, you're fine, $250 on a great occasion, Ben. As they say in French, mazel tov. All right. Without any further ado, we come to our guest speaker for the day, my cousin, my second cousin. Yeah, okay. My second cousin, Janet Schwartz, who I understood had a great craft talk. I missed it. We were in Maui. But as I also understand, there are a lot of questions that had to be cut off because the meeting ended at 1:30. And so, Janet, you know, your speaker today is going to come back in Diane's turn, but he had a medical reason why he could not be here today. And Janet was nice enough to step up and fill the void. And she's here to talk about the Soviet Union and mostly to answer questions about the Soviet Union. Janet, you want to come up?
Okay, let's see. Can you hear me? Yeah. Yeah. Well, first of all, just a couple things about Russian and Soviet Union. And I thought I'd mention the alphabet. It's an alphabet, it's letters. Some of them look like ours and some of them are different. Just one example. One example is this is the name of Moscow. Notice it has an M, a C, a K, and a B. Well, their C, what looks like a C is their S. What looks like a B is their V. So this is pronounced Moskva. Yeah. So some of the letters look the same as ours and some are different. And they also have 33 letters and some of them are consonant clusters. It works better for a Slavic language.
Janet, what is the origin of their?
The origin is Greek. Cyril and Methodius were the Greek missionaries, and that's why it's called the Cyrillic language, the Cyrillic alphabet. So some of the letters look like Greek, like what looks like RP is their R, like the Greek rho. So that's the origin. And also, when I was there on an exhibit, we had our posters. And this is my name in Cyrillic. Notice there are only 5 letters. There's 8 in English, but the first and the last, so this is an SCH, and this is a TZ or TS. And it says that I'm a computerная programista, a computer programmer, female. A male would be a computerny programist. Yeah, so the Russian language has, yeah, they have masculine, feminine, and neuter, and everything is declined. Has anyone here had Latin? Well, Russian is like Latin on steroids. You decline everything. It has 7 cases, 6 are used regularly, and the 7th is the vocative, which is in like et tu brute. It's when you're saying something like, oh my God, or something. So, and this is what we carried around at the exhibit, and they asked us about ourselves. They saw my name and they said, oh, are you German? Because they recognized Schwartz as being a German word. And I said, no, it's the same last name as the famous Soviet writer Evgeny Schwartz. And they said to me, oh, he was Jewish. And my response was, nu, which is the Yiddish and the Russian word for well. So,
Just a response to that.
they just kind of laughed, you know. Anyway, so.
Do you need some help to
Yeah.
display that?
No, that's about all I'm going to display. I just want to write down what questions you've asked. So now I'm going to turn it open to questions. Do you have questions about the it's the former Soviet Union. It was dissolved in 1991. Okay, let's start with Ben.
How does Putin exist? How is he not assassinated, put to sleep? I don't understand. What are they afraid of?
Okay, well, that's a question about modern day Russia. Well, I think he came to power as sort of an unknown. And I think he's sort of done the same thing that Stalin did, sort of divide and conquer. And now he just has his flunkies associated with him. He's gotten rid of people who've countered him through poisoning, defenestration, you know, people somehow fall out of windows. And that's sort of what Stalin did. Okay, I was there. My first trip there was 1969 as a student with a study tour from Indiana University. And actually the government paid for most of my trip. And we toured around the Soviet Union and we heard all sorts of official views. We met with students and that was very interesting. It was a summer tour. And we studied in Indiana for 4 weeks and then we went to the Soviet Union for 6. And then my next trip there was in 1973. I had been on a student tour of Yugoslavia. And before I left, I sent a note to the Russian embassy or to the American embassy in the Soviet Union and asked whether anyone needed a nanny because that was one way students could go there. You had to have official permission to get to the Soviet Union. You couldn't just show up. And that's been a problem now where people just show up and then they get sent to Siberia. So I was in Yugoslavia when I received a telegram from people at the embassy and they offered me a job. So I took a train up there and I was in and out of the Soviet Union from 1973 until the end of 1974. And
What was the job?
well, I was a nanny for these Americans and then also for British. And another thing I did to be able to stay there is I was sponsored by some people who needed dog and cat sitters.
Why did you want to stay?
Because it was quite interesting. And I majored in Russian. That was my major, and it gave me a chance to use Russian and to, learn about the Soviet Union. And it was much different than when I was a student, when I was on the student tour, because I met dissidents and I sort of learned more about the Soviet system and also about foreigners living there. Foreigners lived in compounds and were guarded by militiamen, and they watched us.
Guarded in what respect that you were kept in your enclave?
Oh, no, we weren't kept, we could come and go. It's just that they kept track of what we were doing.
And surveillance.
Yeah. Well, one example was when I first showed up at one point, I was wearing this green down jacket. Then I went back to Yugoslavia for a few months and got permission to come back. And the militiaman asked me whether I would still be wearing my green down jacket. He remembered me. Yeah. And another thing too is I said there were guards, but one day the correspondent for Reuters, his car was vandalized and no one saw anything. And another case of surveillance, one of the nannies left her purse on a park bench and suddenly it showed up at our doorstep. People weren't just allowed to come in. And not only did it show up, but there were 2 things missing from her purse. One was a souvenir silver dollar. The other one was her address book. Yeah, that was worth its weight in gold. Yeah?
69. Did you go after the lunar landing? And if so, did you hear any actions?
We were there for the lunar landing. Now, there was competition between the Soviet government and the US government, but the people were just very excited about it. They had a special viewing for us in the hotel room for us so we could see the landing. But yeah, we were there and they were very excited about it. Yeah.
Janet Schwartz, and when Russia was had the old control of the old surrounding countries, we know that the Ukraine
is right next to Russia. However, what on the eastern part of the people in the Ukraine are used to Russia, and they actually favor Russia's advances in trying to take over part of the Ukraine because they're Russian, they're not Ukrainians. Is that correct or not?
Yeah, that is. Okay, let me just, wait, I didn't finish Bob's question. And then I went back to the Soviet Union a couple more times. I was a guide for a USIA exhibit twice. And then I also led a student tour. But as for Ukraine, basically the Russian Empire acquired Ukraine during the partition of Poland. In the 18th century, Catherine the Great, who made a comment that now they had a Jewish problem because there were Jews living in Ukraine. Now, Ukraine does have a lot of Russians living there, as you said, they're in the eastern part. I don't know how much they really want to be part of Russia. You know, they had that election and they were corralled into the voting places by militiamen with AK-47s. And I saw the ballot boxes on TV. They were clear plastic and you could see their ballot. I could see it on TV, so the guys with the guns could also see it. So it wasn't a terribly free election. I'm not sure what they really want. What I don't quite understand is why Putin is attacking the whole country. You'd think that all he would want would be that corridor to have a land bridge to Crimea, which they took over in 2014. Crimea was considered part of Russia when you had the republics. Crimea was given to the Ukrainian SSR. Now, the Soviet Union was consisted of 15 republics, and they all had, a lot of them had their own language. Most of them did have their own language, their own alphabet. It wasn't a terribly cohesive country, basically. But there's always been tension between the Russians and Ukrainians. The Russians call the Ukrainians Little Russians. So I don't know quite what is going to happen. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, in communism, you know, everything was supposed to be owned by the people. Everyone was equal, but like in animal farms, some people are more equal than others. So you had people who had privilege. For instance, when I was living there, I met disaffected children of high-ranking officials. And one of them took me out into the country and we saw his family's little dacha, which was this 2-story house. The big dacha was much bigger. So the people who were in charge had a lot of power, and I think that just translated over into becoming the oligarchs. Yeah, Phil?
60s, early 70s, what was the Russian stance on the US being in the Vietnam War? Did they think it was a folly, or did they just kind of laugh it off? Or what was their opinion of the Vietnam War?
They didn't really discuss that with me. But I would say they probably were against it, but I can't really say from personal experience whether they discussed it with me. Because, as I said, I was there in 69 and then 73 to 74, and I came back in 76 as a guide, and by then we had left Vietnam. So when I was on the exhibit, that didn't come up. If we had still been in Vietnam, then it would have come up. At the exhibit, they asked a lot of political questions. So, yeah.
What is your fascination? I mean, how did you decide to major in Russia? And I didn't get a chance to hear your craft.
Yeah. Well, basically, I read some Russian novels and I thought it was interesting. And also my family was from there. My grandparents knew Russian, although they spoke Yiddish. And I started to study Russian. I'm interested in languages. In high school, I took Latin and French. And then when I was a high school student at UCLA, I decided to start taking Russian. And I took a number of classes in Russian, and then when they said you have to declare a major, I declared Russian as a major. Yeah.
And then you write the novel. Can you tell us some of the novel which you like the best?
Yeah.
What you might recommend?
Yeah. Well, one that I read in my parents' extensive library was Sholokov's The Quiet Dawn. And then I read some Tolstoy. And I think my favorite authors would be Chekhov and Tolstoy, 19th century. I think primarily because when I was reading them in Russian, their Russian is easier to read. It's more sort of standard Russian. The more modern ones, sometimes they use slang and I don't know all the words. But that's a very good novel, but it's a little difficult to read if you've read it. It's not the most cheery novel, but some excellent 19th century Russian novels.
I have a question, were they 1969? Did they have home ownership? I mean, could you go to the suburbs of Moscow and see Westwood houses and Beverly Hills houses and all of that? Or did everybody live in these big, ugly box skyrises?
Okay. The big houses would have been for the officials. The average Soviet, remember, it was a command economy. The government owned all the houses. So people lived in apartments. They were gradually transitioning from communal apartments where you basically just had a room and you shared the kitchen and into their own apartments. And they did have those block apartments, which weren't very attractive looking. But as I said, most people lived in apartments. The officials lived in much larger apartments. The foreigners also had larger apartments.
69, were there long lines to buy bread, milk?
There were long lines all the way through. I was there from 69 until 1988, and there were long lines, not so much for bread. The bread stores were pretty well stocked and not too much lines, but not too many lines. But if there were goods in demand, there were long lines. One time I saw a really long line, and I asked the last person in line what they were selling. They didn't know. It's just that there was a long line, so there must be something good. Yeah, their system of goods was just not very good. It just didn't work too well. People had to be very creative about where they were going to find things.
Who established the pay grades and that sort of thing? In other words, it was all determined by the government and showed how much people got paid, so most people got paid a similar amount of money, didn't they?
Yes, and also the high-ranking officials did not have a very large monthly payment. It's just all the perks that they had. But everything was controlled, and my understanding was for paying taxes, it was just plain deducted from your pay. It wasn't just withholding, it was your tax. And the salaries were not that great. People used to barter. Being an American, I was sort of at the top of the chain. So I could acquire American goods at the embassy store when I was with the diplomats. And I would give American goods to people and they would use it to barter. Just one example about bartering was I wanted to see the ballet. And the KGB maid at the place I was a nanny, she knew someone in the box office of the Bolshoi. But that person, she owed him a favor, and that person wanted some American cleaning products. So I went to the embassy, got some Comet. I gave it to the maid with rubles for the ticket. She gave it to her friend, and I got tickets to the Bolshoi sitting in the balcony overlooking the stage. And there was also, we would get foreign liquor. And I think we used, this was when I was working with the British correspondent. I think we exchanged a bottle of French cognac for some boric acid to use to kill our cockroaches because there was none to be found in stores. And that person would have exchanged the cognac for something else. Yeah, Bob?
I wanted to make a comment. Russia continues to be a poor country, very poor. And the comparison is per capita GDP. Russia has about something short of 150 million people. And per capita GDP is about $17,000. Now compare that to California, just California's GDP is over 100,000 per capita. Now, I read a book about Russia. One of our diplomats had retired, and these long lines, he described people in line having a book, and whatever it was, women's shoes or anything, they knew the sizes of the women who were important to them. So they could, when they got to the front of the line, they could benefit their families.
What was the name of the diplomat? Might be someone I know. Well, anyway,
I think his last name was Smith.
oh. Anyway, well, that might be for the whole country. I would imagine that the per capita income in Moscow is higher. And that was the way it was when I was there. The standard of living was higher in Moscow than it was in the rest of the country. Maybe also now called St. Petersburg. Another thing about names is when the communists took over, they renamed everything. And now I think they've renamed a lot of things back to their original name. So it's kind of confusing. Yeah, actually the city where my grandmother was born is now called the Dnipro, but it's had about a couple of other names. The city where Mark's grandmother was born, they had moved to Kremenchuk, and that has remained the same, but all these names changed. Anyway.
Considering the fact that it has lost hundreds of thousands of troops in the Ukrainian war, how does stay in power? Is it because the oligarchs endorsed him, the Communist Committee, or what? I'm sure he's good cow at some point.
Well, he's sort of gotten rid of his opposition. I agree with you, it is sort of strange, but they also probably don't have proper reporting. You know, maybe the people there don't know how many people have perished in the war.
Well, the don't have a big problem getting people to go to the Ukraine to fight. They buy them all.
Or prisoners and are just sent there.
Yeah. Over the years, paid almost 21% of the GNP on defense. I mean, they were just killing themselves. The question I had was, the Russians were the first in space. And that was in the early 1960s. And then in 1969, we put somebody on the moon. Why didn't the Russians put somebody on the moon? They were ahead of the space race in the beginning of 1960s. And what happened?
That I don't know. But they were, the first in space, the first woman in space, the first dog in space. But I don't know what happened to their program afterwards.
The issue is that they didn't have the sophistication and the technology that we had in computers. But I've been in all our private companies doing that sort of thing, and they just couldn't do it. And to this day, they can't put somebody into the moon. If they tried to put somebody into the moon, the person would be stranded. They would be a colossal. That's one of the reasons.
Well, actually, you mentioned computers. The second time I was there was on a technical exhibit. I was a computer programmer at the time, and they were using outdated IBM equipment in 1988, 1987.
Maybe all we have is what this quote, Richie's there, maybe the world.
That I don't know, and he probably has his funds hidden places. That I don't know. And it might not just be money. Oh yeah, he was a colonel in the KGB. Yeah, he was a colonel in the KGB. He does speak English, but his main language is German. He was stationed in East Germany. Yeah.
What effect has a decrease in tourism in Russia from the United States, Western Europe, everywhere? Has that had any effect on their economy?
That I don't know. It might. I mean, I'd be afraid to go there on my own. They're probably getting fewer tourists from Western Europe and from the West. Yeah, Ron?
It's cool. Wait. Something's now. You make it to St. Petersburg cruise, no cruise ship goes there anymore. Anyway, that's that comment. I had a question about entertainment when you were there. Did people go to shows, or Russians have a reputation for having great music? Give us some comments about entertainment.
Yeah, well, I remember being at sort of a pop concert, and the audience was rather polite. They liked it. But then also I was at the ballet, and this was their culture. And Maya Plisetskaya, the prima ballerina, was dancing. And afterwards, the Russian audience, when they're really enthusiastic, they break into rhythmic clapping. They clap all together. And it was like being at a football game. I mean, they were cheering. And their classical music, they were very fond of it. They did have a lot of entertainment there. The plays, the new plays were kind of boring, but there's a lot of Chekhov. And no, I would say there was a fair amount of entertainment. The tickets were very reasonably priced. Sometimes they were a little bit hard to find them, but no, they're very enthusiastic about things from their culture. Yeah.
It's something like something. You talk about the immigration policy.
The what policy?
Immigration policy, especially with Jews deciding to leave Russia. My family was one of the people that we had to pay a lot of money to get them out. Do you know anything about how they did that selection?
No, I don't. I just know that my family got out, but I don't know how much they had to pay to get out. What I did have, though, was some documents that it was just sort of like a visa to go out of the country and then to come back, but people would go to the West and then never come back. One thing I do know about the documents, might be of interest, is that like my grandmother's document, it did not have her birth date. It just had a year. It also said she was Jewish. And in the Soviet Union, there were internal passports that included your ethnic background. It was the 5th point. And those documents, to live anywhere in the Soviet Union, you had to have permission. So you had sort of illegal immigration into Moscow. People wanted to live in Moscow, but if they didn't have permission to go there, they would just go and hope nobody found them. Yeah, Mike?
With saying all people are equal and poor and the same. While you were there, Russia was in the United Nations. Was there any opinion of how people of Russia felt about being in the United Nations? I even find it confusing today that Putin can keep being an aggressor, and yet even the United Nations this morning or yesterday was saying Trump's investigatable for going where he went. And I'm curious if what if any thoughts you have with the UN and Russia back then?
No one really discussed it. I mean, they were in the Security Council, but my friends never really talked about it. And when I've mentioned my friends, some of them, well, their family was pretty high up. Like I knew the granddaughter of Beria, the grandson of, the MiG airplane, the grandson of Mikoyan, and they never really discussed that kind of thing. They were sort of focused on their government, and they wanted change. I don't know what they think of now. One person that I did know, I just Googled her name and discovered that she had fled Russia. Yeah. Okay.
Going back to the culture and entertainment questions, what were prevailing like hobbies or sources of like middle class, lower class entertainment? Like were people watching sitcoms? Were there like community sports? Like what were people filling their roots with?
Okay, Soviet TV was kind of boring. Now they did have movies from the West. However, what their procedure was is they would get movies from the United States and would preview them. The officials were able to preview them without subtitles with simultaneous translation. And then they would decide whether it was appropriate for the rest of the population. And a lot of the movies were just sent back. In terms of hobbies, there's a lot of skiing. I mean, it's cold there. I believe they would place water in the paths of Gorky Park, and of course it would freeze, so people would skate. A lot of people would go skiing, cross-country skiing in Lennon Hills. Picnics. I mean, it wasn't all sort of gloomy there. And then one thing I wanted to mention about holidays. Okay, it was an atheist country. Christmas was out, but they put all the trappings of Christmas into New Year's. So they had parties and presents, etc.
The next question?
So out of time.
And alcohol.
Yes. Yeah. No, it's been a major problem for centuries. Just one thing. Okay, for instance, we have vodka. The word vodka is from the word for water. We just have plain vodka. They have pepper vodka, pertsovka. They have horseradish vodka. My favorite was limonka, lemon vodka. And as a foreigner, I could go to the special store where you could buy a Western liquor for rather cheap prices. So I would be bringing, they really like Johnny Walker Black Label. But no, a lot of drinking. And I think it's still a problem. Well, actually, when I was there, if you knew an American, you could buy gin at the foreigner's store. But yeah, they tend to drink it straight. I don't know, they have too many cocktails.
I'm not sure how to articulate this question because it is not intended to be political. It is intended to leverage your scope of life experience and observation. I was really struck by what you said about how the leadership and military live well in, the higher ranking in Russia. And I would say in the last 2 decades, I've witnessed that firsthand. And its massive expansion in our government agencies here. What do you think makes America different and less at risk of the George Orwell scenario with our massive expansion of government agencies and funding, if that makes sense?
Yeah.
I mean, I get like we have much more population than we do, but it seems increasingly like if you are an officer, if you are media, you are going to get the same treatment, and then the rest of working class America isn't seeing that. How do you have a perspective as someone who's seen this happen through generations on what are best defenses from becoming falling prey to the same dynamics?
Well, I think, there's a huge difference between our system and the system in Russia and in the Soviet Union. I mean, we had the English system, they had, we have the judiciary that's separate. In Russia, they've had an autocracy forever. They had a few cases where they might have had some democracy, but basically they have just had an autocracy. So I think that's one huge difference. They didn't have a Magna Carta. For instance, when the Ivan the Terrible's line died out, he accidentally killed his son. They elected a new czar. And after the czar, they now have communist authoritarian regime, and now that's continued on. It's another authoritarian regime. So I think our system is hopefully saved by the fact that we have like a separate judiciary.
All right, thank you.
And our elections are a bit more free. Yeah.
I don't have a speaker gift for you, but
Yeah.
Mike Newman has stepped up and he's going to give you a gift certificate for 10 hours of free estate planning, right, Mike?
I might need that. Well, one thing I wanted to mention is, I just wanted to relate it to Rotary, the four-way test. I lied my way through the Soviet Union, but item 1 is it the truth? But item 4 is it beneficial? So I did not want to say anything about my friends because it would not be beneficial for them to know me because as a capitalist, I was a suspicious person.
Okay, thank you.
Janet, action.
Thank you, Janet. All right, next week we have the International Medical Corps, something akin to Doctors Without Borders. And a good friend of mine who was for 10 years, well, he was a major banking official, but for 10 years he was the dean at the UCLA School of Business, Anderson, I think. He's going to be doing the introduction. We'll also have a senior craft talk from Tom Barron, and I've got a surprise next week as well. Okay, anything else? Then we are adjourned.